What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/IDontWorkHereLady. Cola. Yeah. Okay, this story's called I'm Not a Tour Guide. Usual disclaimer, on phone, English not my first language. About 11 years ago, my wife and I got engaged. My mother-in-law decided to gift us with an expense-covered trip to Paris as an engagement gift. So we found ourselves spending a week in Paris enjoying the city. Also, we met an old friend. My friend, nicknamed Indy, was doing a postgraduate degree in Paris. We met a couple of nights and we scheduled to visit the Louvre together. Next day, we met outside the Louvre. Along with Indy was his girlfriend. She was a history of arts major, slightly important for later, from Norway. Indy was an archaeology postgrad. He has, since his preteen years, an obsession with ancient history, important for the story. Also relevant to the story, my wife likes to read a lot of history books. We start our tour in the Louvre from the Roman section with Indy taking the role of explaining what we were seeing. Now, because of his girlfriend, we all speak English. We pass the Roman section, followed by Greek, stopping on the Aphrodite of Milos. In that section, Indy really took off with his explaining, not only with Aphrodite, but with the muses as well, statues of them in the same section. Then up the stairs to take pics of Nike and onwards to the Renaissance section. On the way towards the next section, we stopped in a room that had models of some of the wonders of the ancient world. One of them was a model of the Temple of Zeus in Olympia, and the giant statue of Zeus made from ivory and gold. Indy stops to explain this to his girlfriend, and my wife decides to chip in about cheating in the original Olympic Games. Started a lighthearted banter. They're talking in our native language, and I'm trying to translate to Indy's girlfriend. And then it happened. Here's the cast. There's me, Indy. Stressed mom. Amazed child 1. Amazed child 2. Excuse me, what's the guy talking about? I turn around and see a woman in her 30s and 2 boys. The older one around 8 or 9 years old, and the younger around 6 to 7 years old. Everything on her screams tourist. She wears a sundress, has a small backpack with supplies for the children, we found out later, a Guide to the Louvre book, and a look of stress on her face. My wife and I have that look occasionally now. It's common on parents. They're talking about cheating in the ancient Olympics. Wow, they used to cheat back then? The younger one is glued to the model. Who's that? He asked, pointing at the statue. That caught Indy's attention. That's Zeus, the leader of the Greek gods. Wow! Where's the Mona Lisa? Down this corridor. You can't miss it. Cool. Can you tell us the story for that? An awkward pause from everyone. Stressed mom a bit embarrassed. You're not the tour guide, are you? No, madam, I'm not. A sigh came out of stressed mom. She grabbed her book tighter. I'm sorry, you were speaking with such authority and the book is so unhelpful. We kind of thought, you know. It's all right. I hope I helped. In fact, we're gonna visit the next section if you want to follow, but I won't do the talking. Hannah, his girlfriend, is more apt in this period than I. Hannah waved, smiling. Can we go with them, Mom, please? She looked to each of us, trying to decide. If it's not too much trouble. No trouble at all, both Indy and Hannah replied. Yay! But you have to be quiet and listen to these nice people. Yes, Mom! They followed us the rest of the day in the Louvre, with either Indy or Hannah answering the kids' questions. It was lovely to see the look of amazement on their faces as we walked through the museum. The mother told us her husband was invited in a week-long convention in Paris from his company and brought them along for vacations. She insisted to buy us lunch, which we politely declined. We settled for coffee in one of the small cafes outside of the Louvre. Her husband joined us later on. The kids asked a million questions about the exhibits during our coffee, but their true delight was they discovered Hannah was from a country that had Vikings. All in all, a nice stroll in the Louvre. That's a very adorable story. Thank you for sharing. Also, it's really cool when people know a lot about history, because I know nothing about history. All I know is that George Washington was the president of England and King George III, the first president of the United States, hated him, and so he was like, yo, and they had a rap battle, and, well, yeah, the rest is history. Abraham Lincoln lifted the immigration ban on black people. I'm joking, guys. But no, it's really cool when people know a lot about history, and because they're always so willing to share it. Because I mean, what's the point if you don't share your knowledge of history? That's like the one thing you know what I'm saying? Obviously, there's some practical uses to history, such as for politics, even strategy in a war. As a guide of what to avoid. Yeah, it's great stuff. But also, it's just for the stories and the lessons you can get out of them. Stuff like that. Very enlightening history can be, which is what I discovered while playing the Uncharted games. Whoa. Now, all we gotta do as humans, which I don't know why we haven't done them, is just follow the plot of the Uncharted games and get all this treasure, bro. We can find El Dorado. We can find the Rama, the Pillars. We can find the freaking, what was it, Shangri-La. We can find those. Uncharted has the answers, guys. Jeez, silly people. I'm gonna fund an expedition. Just follow the games. They tell us everything. This story's called, Sir, I'm not your employee. You can't fire me. The cast goes like this. Oh, which is me? I don't understand. The username starts with a D. I don't, what? Okay, and there's a friend. Mother, kid, manager. This anecdote arose a year ago. I was leaving high school with my friend, and it occurred to us to go to a shopping center that was about 15 minutes from school. When my friend and I arrived, we saw a new sports store. We went to see the football helmets. We both play football. No big deal, we're pretty cool. Because I wanted to improve my equipment to a more recent equipment. Yes. I stayed in the store while my friend told me, I'm gonna go find something to eat. If you don't go soon, there won't be anything left for you. So I tried to hurry by choosing one of the models. Whoa, I thought you were at a sports store. Now we're picking models? Whoa. But then a mother with his son approached me, asking me questions about which model is better. I was already in a hurry to go eat with my friend, but this woman brings her son closer to me. He asks if I can help him try on some things. I don't know why, but I agree. The boy was very thin and pale, so I asked him, what position do you play? I don't know yet. It's my first time playing football. Oh, I understand. By your physique, I suppose they'll make you a cornerback or receiver. Let me show you some things that will serve you. Are you a cornerback? No, I'm a linebacker, but I have played in most positions. I finished showing her some accessories, and then he goes back to his mother. She gives me everything back and says, thank you very much. Can you take it to the cashier and charge it to this card? I'm sorry, lady, but I don't work here. Of course, you helped us in everything. It was simple kindness, lady. You're lying. How can you treat us like that? Bring your manager. Lady, I repeat that I am not an employee. The lady was yelling a lot, to which the manager turns her chair. Yes, this idiot was on his phone behind a large desk. What's happening? Just charge him and that's it. I'm not an employee. You should know it since you're the manager. You know what? Get out of my store. You're fired. This guy was always on his phone. He didn't even turn to look at me. I'm not gonna go. I haven't done anything. Security! Get this guy out of here. A security employee approaches me and tries to push me. I was bigger than him, so I dodged him, making him slip. Isn't it easier to dodge if you're smaller? I don't... What? Okay. This guy gets angry and calls the mall supervisor. This guy arrives and asks what is happening. When the mother intervenes. This kid is a liar. They fired him and he got very aggressive. The supervisor looks at me, says that my uniform is from school, not from the store. Everyone is silent, and the guy asks to see the security camera since he doubts that I have done something wrong. When they see the video, they realize that I had entered the store first, and then I helped the child. In the end, it shows how the manager does not even turn to look at me, and that the security guard tried to push me without reason. The manager kept apologizing to me, repeating that he had a 50% discount on my purchase. The lady was very sorry for yelling at me, and the security guard was fired. He had already had some incidents of unnecessary violence recorded. Whoa. But the worst part was that I didn't get a single piece of KFC chicken that my friend bought. Blasphemy. And now I understand Thanos, bro. Thanos was right. Kill half of everything. I'm tired. Actually, I'm not really tired. I should be, given that it's 2 a.m., but I'm not tired. Don't ask me how. As my sleep schedule is just weird. That's why. Anyway. Anyway, this guy's cool for helping out the little dude. With team sports and stuff, it's important to have that encouragement early on, in that sense of, hey, you belong here, so you don't, feel like left out. It's important, and this guy was helping out. It's nice. Very nice. This story's called, He's Supposed to Be Setting an Example. This story doesn't fit with the retail environment of this thread stories, but I've noticed a theme of deserving entitled receiving their karmic comeuppance. So I submit this for your consideration. Years ago, when I was attending Naval Nuclear Power School in Orlando, my best friend and I were involved in an incident at the Navy Exchange on base. It was payday, so after class, best friend and I headed over to the exchange to cash our checks and pick up a few things. The exchange was part of a cluster of shops with a covered area connecting them. With the blazing Florida sun that day, there was quite a crowd gathered in the shaded area. As we were headed for the door of the exchange, we saw a well-dressed, late middle-aged woman carrying a large number of packages trying to get through the door. Why she didn't have a cart for all of her packages, I have no clue. Best friend and I each grabbed one side of the double doors and opened them up for her. Just as she's coming through the door, Lieutenant comes charging through, nearly knocking her off of her feet and sending her packages flying. The lieutenant joins with a cluster of other junior officers having a beaver sausage session. I catch the woman's arm to steady her, and once she's regained her balance, I run to get a shopping cart while best friend starts gathering up her packages. When I return a moment later, we put all of her packages in the cart and present it to the woman. She gives us a huge smile and a thank you. Best friend is a bit of a smart mouth and sees that the offending lieutenant is still beaver sausaging with his buddies. He pitches his voice loud enough that he's sure the lieutenant will hear and says, "Our pleasure, ma'am. Some of us don't require an act of Congress to be a gentleman." Even though I'm laughing at this verbal barb, alarm bells are sounding in my head. Sure enough, the lieutenant has indeed heard and is striding our way, red-faced and breathing fire. Best friend and I pop to attention, and he proceeds to ream us each a new one. I must admit, his command to profanity was impressive, and coming from a sailor, that's saying something. During this tirade, I noticed that the lady we assisted has pushed her cart over to another small group of officers, talking to them and pointing in our direction. One of the officers detaches himself from the group and comes striding over. I swear, I have never seen as many scrambled eggs, gold braid, on a hat in my life. And his shoulder boards have 2 stars. It's the base commanding officer. Oh my god, we're done for now. Best friend and I are starting to reach for our IDs and getting ready to be put on report. He looks at best friend and me and says, "Gentlemen, thank you for assisting my wife. You may go now." We snap our salutes and a brisk, "Yes, sir," and beat feet into the exchange. We look back through the glass wall to see the lieutenant standing at a very rigid attention while the admiral reduces him to a quivering puddle. I don't know what happened after that, but it's likely that he had very limited advancement potential and wasn't very happy with the choices of duty stations he had available to him. Yikes. But that's badass. There's always a bigger fish, as they say, especially in the military. You gotta be careful, I'm assuming. I don't know. I don't have military experience. This thing I have had to that is a freaking white grandpa that sings country. It's a joke. He's a great guy. I love him. This story's called, Somebody Should Complain to the City About the Road Work Being Done Outside Your Building. First time poster on this sub. I honestly never thought I would have anything to contribute here, but I now stand corrected. On mobile and slightly visually impaired, so please excuse any formatting or spelling mistakes. I work reception at a senior's home in a newer neighborhood that's still under development in my city. For about a week recently, a crew was working outside my building to install sewage lines. To do this, they had to tear up the road, and obviously the road was closed while they did that. In order to get to our parking lot and underground parkade, you had to drive about 3 minutes around a grassy area to come in through the other side. Or you could park a 2 minutes walk further away from the doors than you normally did. Another important thing to note is that the city didn't tell us that they were going to start doing this work. My coworkers showed up on Monday morning morning to a closed, torn-up road. Not the most pleasant surprise for anyone. Most people were pretty reasonable about this. They made some casual chit-chat about, "That road work is really inconvenient. I had to drive around to get to the parking lot. At least we could still get in there, though." I would empathize and offer some agreement. Then I would ask them if they have the virus, and we would all be on our way. Well, one older gentleman was decidedly not happy about having to drive or walk further than usual. He came in to visit his resident and left with no issue. Then, later in the evening, he decided he simply had to call and tell me what was up. He complained at me for about 20 minutes about how inconvenient it was that the road was torn up, how awful it was for him to have to walk a little further, etc., etc. He was also super mad that we hadn't notified anyone about the road work. I did my best to empathize, responding that they hadn't told those of us who work in the building either that it was happening, but it was a good thing we still had access to our parking lot. He didn't seem to understand that neither I nor my company had anything to do with the road work. Even after I told him, he kept ranting. Finally, I had enough. My phones were ringing off the hook. I had a lineup of people waiting to be screened so they could either start their shifts or visit their family members. And I had a huge to-do list for that night. I cut into his tirade and asked, "Sir, is there anything I can help you with?" He seemed extremely taken aback and muttered, "No." "Good, then have a great night." And I hung up the phone. It felt excellent. "Hey, that's good, that's good. I'm happy for you. Now it's time to drink Mountain Dew. That rhymed, I have the time to steal the heart of a dime and make a wind chime." I don't know what I'm saying. Alright, this story's called Apparently Being Tall Equals Shelf Stacker Obligated to Help. Today, I have braved the wiles of little, I don't know, to do my weekly food shopping. Anyone who's been to Lidl knows the uniform. I was in an Iron Maiden t-shirt and jeans. I seem to be a magnet for people who need help in shops. I'll always help where I can, but only to polite people. As a tall lady, little over 6 feet, I'm constantly asked to reach for things. I usually don't mind. Today I was pondering the complexities of tinned tomatoes when I heard an impatient ahem behind me. Assuming I was in the way, I sidestepped and apologized through my mask. I locked eyes with a woman I assume was in her late 40s, a good foot shorter than me. She proceeds to raise her eyebrows at me and go, "Well, aren't you gonna help me?" while gesturing at the top shelf. The front row had gone. She then asked if I was deaf or just stupid. I smiled through my mask and pushed the tray of tins back a few centimeters on the shelf and walked back off. She followed me through the shop, tutting, muttering something about young people and lazy staff. I heard her loudly complaining about the rude tattooed slob of a shelf stacker at the next hill over. I just turned and waved at her. She went nuclear, and checkout staff was just like, "Ma'am, she doesn't work here. Do you have a points card?" Petty? Yes. Deserved? Absolutely. Holy poo balls, guys! Thanks for the awards. I didn't expect my passive-aggressive shopping habits to resonate so well. Well, it did, and good job. Resonating, vibing, good job. The Dwemer were particularly good at tonal manipulation. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.